Well, howdy there, folks. This is your host, ID Jester. Thanks for checking out my video, and welcome to Head Start 4 for Sword Coast Legends here. It's been a full 2 weeks. 2 weeks since we've had a chance to do anything with Sword Coast Legends. They did not have a Head Start last weekend because they were busy at a convention and stuff. So they didn't have any Head Start access last weekend, but it is October 9th. We now have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday once again to test and try out things in Sword Coast Legends. Of course, this is not the full version. This is not the final version. This is a couple weeks before final release. And what I thought I'd do is just talk for a minute about some of the important changes they have made in the last 2 weeks to the game system so that you know when we're starting to run adventures exactly what has been updated since Head Start 3 to Head Start 4. So it's nice that there are over 2,100 fixes total. They're not all listed here, obviously, but they've been busy, hard at work, adding features and changing things and implementing things and just basically updating whatever they can to get ready for final release. So a lot of it's going to be bug patching, fixes, slight fixes and stuff. They're not going to be able to add in a lot of the features that we're hoping, like tile by tile layouts for dungeons, branching dialogues, things like that. Those will have to come after full release. But anyways, let's take a look at the features they did add. Dungeon Masters will now have the ability to set difficulty of traps and hidden doors to impossible. That way, DMs will be able to seal off areas of the map for players. DM will have more control over the flow of the dungeon. They can also set the difficulty of traps and hidden doors to always, so that way you basically, with the hidden doors and the hidden traps, you can either say you're not getting through here no matter what, or you can say, okay, I'm going to always let you through here, instead of having them have to make checks on that. So that's a really good addition. You can see here we have a lot of new placeable objects. One of my biggest complaints I had during Head Start 3 was the lack of placeable objects. You can see we've got a whole list of different things here. We're going to be looking at that as soon as we get the game downloaded. In fact, it is ready to launch, so it's been downloading. Let's see what else they did. They did some adjustment on the boss fights, so they've changed some of them to make them a lot more difficult. The Master Assassin, the Demonic Shadow, Necromic Shade, and the Beholder. They added the Imp and the Succubus to the creature list. I believe these are going to be the only new creatures, is the Imp and the Succubus that we're going to have access to, but you know, anything is better than nothing. Bigger crits, so when you're actually in a game, the text that shows how much damage you're doing is going to be bigger when you crit, and it'll stay on the screen slightly longer. Higher tier weapons, such as life stealing, should now be properly balanced. I guess the vulnerable weapons and the life stealing weapons were way out of whack, making the game way too easy at higher levels. So they've listened to the feedback for all the posts and stuff that we've done on their website, and they have adjusted that, so that's good. Network improvements, there's just a bunch of things there for the networking component. Improvements on a party wipe, which means when all the characters get knocked out and they have to start over, the enemy HP is going to be fully restored, increasing the overall encounter difficulty. So the way it was before was a party would go in, have a fight, with any of the encounters in your module, and if they got killed, they restarted back at the beginning, but the enemies had kept their hit points at whatever level they were when the encounter ended. Now the enemies are going to be reset back to full hit points, so they have to basically fight all over again from scratch, use different tactics, be better prepared, stuff like that. The reason they did this is because they didn't want players, I guess there was a lot of complaints from players that, I would just run in haphazardly, get wiped out, and then just go and fight them again. And, every time I did that, the enemies would get weaker and weaker and weaker. And so a first level party could go and take on a 20th level adventurer, and they would die a whole bunch of times, but eventually, because the hit points were being reset on the higher level characters, they weren't doing that. It wasn't very realistic, so they implemented that. The DM can now, and I think this is going to be a big one, I'm surprised it's not in bold, the DM can now modify creature health in real time from the blade menu or keyboard with the apostrophe and the plus. So if the encounter is getting too difficult and the DM wants to adjust the creature's health on the fly, or for role-playing purposes, if the party says, oh, we're going to knock over a bookshelf on the guys and you want to do some damage to the monsters, you can now do that. It would be great if they would also allow the DM to do this with the players as well for role-playing purposes. If I have a trap that's not actually in the game, but in my own envision and based on the characters' roles, we could have a situation where they would fail their checks or whatever, and they would take some health. For example, like a whale, and I say to the players, "Oh, you see something at the bottom of the whale," and the guy jumps in, and I have him do a dexterity check or a climb check or whatever, and he fails his check. It would be nice to be able to go, "Oh, you're taking 10 points of damage or whatever from that." So, anyways, I think that's going to be a biggie. I'm surprised it's not in bold. DM quest rewards are now always random magical items. Quest-giving vendors will show their quest icons instead of the vendor icons. World map shows valid quests for each location, so players will be more aware of which quest resides. So this I think is going to be a biggie as well. A nice addition where players will now know what quests are located in which region. So they'll know, okay, well there's 2 quests in this region. Let's try and go complete both of them. Or whatever, so that's good. A new animation for the wizard spell Meteor Swarm. New spell effects added to the restore ability. I guess there wasn't any kind of spell effect previously, so they've added one, which is really good. So when you have cast that spell on a player that's taking damage or whatever, and you cast that spell, you actually know that it took effect. Added tactical pause UI button to the quick bar. Enemy bosses, new and improved portraits. Escape now cancels out of the DM menus, which is another biggie for us. Updating a shared module no longer wipes the stats of the module. It only wipes the module rating. DM can acquire DM loot while in combat. So that's kind of another, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, but it can make things more interesting. So while the combat's taking place, the DM can get loot, and they can instantly make the challenge even harder based on the loot they get. So they don't have to wait until the end of combat. Ranger pets now have are better in pathfinding and AI. The creature info panel in DM HUD now shows the faction of the creature if the creature has a quest on them. DM selected creatures retain their selected info, name, health, ring, while you manipulate them from the blade menu. Some of this stuff we'll have to just see in the game. It's going to be a little hard for me to explain and talk about some of these things until we actually get in the game. New location movement gizmo. Moving location in the DM map requires a new menu selection to fix an issue where locations were accidentally shifted when you clicked on them. Okay, sure. Players will be prompted to rate the DM if they spent 5 or more minutes in the game. We disabled DM trap placement in the adventure camp, so they've taken away the access to place traps in the encampment. I guess they feel that the adventure camp should be a safe location and players shouldn't have to worry about things. I can understand their thinking about that, but what happens if you wanted to create a little situation in the encounter camp? So I can understand their thought about it, but I don't quite agree with it. But we'll see what happens. They might take that back away or whatever. Who knows? Okay, DM shortcut keys now work in edit mode. The WISP pointer changes in the HUD when the DM changes his WISP. DMs can now use hotkeys to use DM loot. DMs can no longer put action text on container that has loot in it. And I actually ran into that where if you put action text on a container, it basically takes the fact that it's a container away from it. So I already had that, so I never put action text on anything the players wanted to open. DM controls such as delete objects, rotate objects clockwise, and rotate objects counterclockwise to key binding options. Oh my god, this might fix our problem with the fact that every time I place an object and I click off it, it keeps rotating. So, that would be good. We also added the F1 map ping feature to key bindings and many, many more. Bugs fixes. You see a whole bunch of bug fixes. These are kind of, I guess, the most important ones, but of course there's many, many more. Lots of bug fixes. Capes is one thing they had talked about in their live stream. See if there's anything else. Fixed a bug where joining a game gives the player the DM camera level zoom. Fixed a bug where ambush trippers disappeared. Okay. And of course, server browser updates. Game difficulty should now be visible. Games should now clearly show whether a live DM is in the game. The Dungeon Master's rating should now be visible. Players can sort by Dungeon Master rating. Players can now sort by full or least full games. Players can now sort by difficulty. We have updated the level range filter to let players more easily find games around the level. Players can now see the difficulty of the game in the lobby. And added a session menu that shows everyone in the game, their player, their Steam names, along with ping information. From here you can kick as host and report other players. Players should now be able to easily see the number of open games as well as the number of open games with a live Dungeon Master. So, lots of additions. You can see up here 2,100 fixes. Not everything has been listed, as I've said. It's basically another couple weeks of basically putting this game in the frying pan and letting it cook for a little while and seeing what they can get out of it. So, I hope they continue to do this. Full release is in 11 days, so they basically have like one more week to do whatever, and then they've got to have a final build that they're going to be sending out. They can't obviously wait to the last minute to make any changes. Again, a lot of the big changes and things that people have been requesting, tile by tile, branching dialogue, more text options, and more questing options, and the list goes on and on. Those are all going to be things that are going to be added to the game after full release. So the way it's probably going to go, if you're a PC player like myself and you have an idea of you comprehend what's going on, they're probably building right now for the final release. And everything they've done, you can see here, is going to be for final release. And then the final release is going to happen, and they're going to spend the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, however long it takes, patching and fixing all the issues that came out of the final build, the final release build. And then, hopefully, they'll have some time to start working on adding a lot of the other features. So it's good to see that they're working on it and continuing to add things and continuing to fix things and give players the things they're looking for in the game. So that is very, very good. So Sword Coast Legends, as I mentioned throughout all of my posts, I think the longer it goes and the more chance they have to work on it, the better and better it's going to keep getting. And you can just see there's going to be a lot of additions to this, and hopefully we'll get a chance to encounter this weekend as we have Head Start 4 access coming. So the way I think this is running is we got Head Start 4 release this weekend. The full game release is actually live October 20th, but I believe there's a Head Start access the weekend before, which is basically going to be the full release, as I mentioned. They probably have until next Friday to come up with the final build, and then Saturday, Sunday, we'll get access to it again, full released version just a couple of days before everyone else if you've pre-ordered the game. So be sure to watch for lots of more videos to come with Head Start 4. In fact, we're going to be recording in just a minute as we get into the game and check out some of the things we had looked at in the list to see if we can now show you what these features and updates do. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the game. Sword Coast Legends, lots of action to come here on my game channel. Hopefully you're enjoying it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.